Sacre bleu! It would seem that this whole questions for X thing has become its own genre. So, I guess the way I'm going to have to do this video is, well, I reckon I'm going to have to do this thing in 2 parts since I'm a long-winded son of a bitch. So go ahead and take us away. Let's see how far we can get to before I, call it quits and continue on a couple days from now. Go ahead. Or maybe I should have been like this. Go ahead. No, seriously, go ahead.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
Well, yeah. That is, if that's how I reacted to the left or the right. But it's not. There are only a couple of issues that really bother me or get me to overreact in any sensitive way. Not very many. I mean, there's lots of things that I think people say are stupid, don't get me wrong, but normally I don't really get too bothered by people in a real sense. I mean, most of the time, I'm portraying a character. I mean, me, myself, Zarius, I don't normally get too angry at other people's opinions, unless I really think they're kind of downright evil. It's usually evil that really bothers me, not someone disagreeing with me.
What is it with you people and skulls?
Oh, well, I can actually answer you this question. See, I've actually had conversations with Davis Rainey, because he's, well, like, a good friend of mine. So, what that thing is called, in school, is called memento mori, which roughly translates into memory of death. It's basically an object or a reminder that you're mortal, that one day you could indeed die, and so because, of course, you can die, it's important to make a life for yourself that you can be proud of. It's to keep into perspective that you're mortal and you'll die, and so each and every day you should do something worthwhile or something that might better yourself. That's what it's for. And this might be a little bit pedantic, but that's one skull, and the only person I've ever seen have it is Davis. So I don't see why you didn't just ask Davis Arini why he had the skull. I don't understand why you would have to put this out to all anti-SJWs.
How do you define right-wing?
That's actually a really good question. But from my point of view, it doesn't really matter if something is right-wing or left-wing. What really matters is whether it's a reasonable idea. So honestly, I'd have to say, what difference does it make? That's how I feel about it. I don't know how anyone else would feel about it.
Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you?
Yes, you do have a good point there. And you know what, just keep talking. I think I have an answer to your question.
And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
I don't really know if this is a form of irony, but considering that that's the entire point of the term social justice warrior, I would say yes, I'm pretty sure people understand that leftist and SJW is a pejorative, because that's what it was meant to be. That said, to answer your question as to people's aversion to the right wing, I would imagine it's because they don't want to be considered to be right wing, or they don't feel that their politics match up with the right wing. But they simultaneously don't think people on the right wing are shitty, terrible, horrible people. They just disagree with them. But they find that some people on the left are kind of assholes, and so they disagree with them. I mean, they still agree mostly with their politics, but there are some things they disagree with. That's what I would imagine the problem would be. That, and the problem would be they don't want to be associated with the right wing, because they're oftentimes labeled as crazy, racist, homophobic bastards. And considering the fact that no one lets look themselves as an evil person, they don't want to associate with something they think is evil. So, meh.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter?
You don't know that I exist, do you? Because if you did, you wouldn't be asking such an absurd question. I never tell anyone that I make a video response with, or anyone in the comment section, to drink bleach. In fact, that would be counterproductive to my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal of which is to convince you to join my side and to disregard this crazy ideology that is detrimental to male-female relationships. So, I guess this isn't really for me. I guess this isn't a question for me. I shouldn't be answering it. Either that, or you don't know I exist, and you only seem to think that crazy assholes tell people to drink bleach or something. I don't know. But that doesn't really apply to me. I don't ever want anyone to kill themselves. If anything, I think most people would try to prevent people from drinking bleach. I would think, at least.
Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
Actually, no. Again, considering that I want people to join my side, having them die would be counterproductive to my ultimate goal. So no, it's not easier. What's wrong with you? Why would you say that?
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable.
Well, actually, I just claim to be a nigga on the internet. I mean, to be an individual that has to say, I am for logical, rational, evidence-based argumentation is kind of par for the course. It's kind of like, shouldn't you be? What do you have to advocate for that? Isn't that just shit that you're just supposed to do when you're trying to have an honest conversation with someone? Isn't that just... I mean, to me, you may as well just say, I'm a proponent for going to the store and buying food. Yeah, most people are.
But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, I don't know, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
You know, there's actually a very simple answer to your question. It's because people aren't static in their emotional states. In other words, it's entirely possible to try to attempt to have a logical conversation with somebody, and then on a different forum, you're just kind of a dick or an asshole, because the way you feel about different things or even the time of day can change. And considering the fact that Twitter is the absolute worst place ever to have any nuanced or in-depth conversation ever, all you can really do on Twitter is one of three things. Post sexy pictures of yourself or porn, shitpost, and promotion. And since most people don't really promote, you really only got the other two things that kind of happen at about equal pace. Twitter is the absolute worst website ever to have a conversation with someone about anything. So that's why people don't try to normally have one. Hell, when I try to have one, I oftentimes have to send like 3 or 4 different tweets in order to get my point across. I really hate Twitter, I'm gonna be completely honest.
No, seriously? What is it with you people and skulls?
Again, Mundane Matt is one person, and that is a skull. I mean, I don't want to be a condescending asshole here, but it seems that you lack mastery of the English language, my friend. You add an S at the end of a noun to represent plurality. You just say the whole word itself when there's a singular thing. That is a skull, not skulls, and that's Mundane Matt, one person. I know I sound like a dick, but seriously, you should stop asking that inane question, because it doesn't make any sense in context.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had, and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
I don't know, dude. I've always felt that they existed that way. I don't think they ever became that way. I hardly ever used the word cuck out of its appropriate context, so I guess this question doesn't apply to me. I don't really like using those terms to begin with. The only reason I use social justice warrior is because I think it encapsulates the person's position, not as a pejorative to derail any conversation. So I can't answer that question. But I guess maybe I can. Maybe the answer was, yeah, sure.
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies?
Well, sir, I resent that. I resent that question, sir. I have not committed any felonies at all. And what is this? I am a person of the darkest persuasion. How ironic is that? And a black person has committed no crimes here in this scenario. My. No, but seriously, what's wrong with you? Why would you even ask that question? You find one person who commits a crime. I don't even know who that person is, but you find one person who commits a crime, and then you have to ask all of us, what's our problem with committing felonies that we don't commit? What's wrong with you?
Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
You know, honestly, I thought I was doing that the entire time. In fact, most of the time, I don't even think most feminists I respond to are stupid, dumb people. I just think that they're wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. You know, it's okay, it's fine. You shouldn't make policies off of wrong ideas, which is why it's important to challenge them and correct their course. But I don't think that most of the time I talk about the weakest feminist position, unless you consider Lacey Green to be one of the weakest feminists having. Unless you consider people on YouTube to have the weakest positions on feminism, then no, I don't think that question applies to me. And even then, I can see your point here, Christy. If that's what people are doing, it would be a waste of time to debunk or argue about weak positions that no one thinks about because, well, no one fucking thinks about them. So, I guess the answer to your question is I don't think most people do it or realize that they're doing it. So, it's not intentionally. At least I hope it's not.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered?
Well, see, and that herein lies one of the... what's the word I'm looking for? One of the biggest hurdles, I would say, for people of the MRA persuasion, and that when they try to, I don't know, just have conversations, when they just try, I don't know, put documentaries, and when they just try to do something for men, oftentimes they run headfirst into a feminist wall, and then they have to deal with that. They have to explain to people as to why this wall isn't needed and it should be removed so we can keep going. And see, because lots of other people then come by and reinforce this wall constantly, MRAs aren't able to get anything done because people keep are like, well, there's feminism, so why don't you just work with them? When it's the very feminism thing people want them to work with that's preventing them from doing anything. Did you catch the metaphor? Basically, Christiosity, I believe your name is, the problem in and of itself is the fact that feminists are constantly stopping men from being able to even work together and get to this point. I mean, hell, no matter how you feel about Rouge V, I mean, I think the Australian Navy mobilized to make sure he didn't get there just because he wanted to get a meet up and hang out with a couple of men and just talk. See, it's shit like that. That's why men's rights activists, it's not even so much that they don't want to, but they can't work with feminists. By the way, I'm not saying Rouge is a men's rights activist. I'm just saying continue.
And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
Well, again, considering that my objective is to convince you to drop the toxic ideology of feminism and become my ally, well, I have no problem with that in any capacity. None at all. So, I guess this was not a question for me. Interesting.
What is third wave feminism? Sorry,
Steve Scheisman going to have to answer your question with the question. What difference does it make? It makes no difference what wave of feminism it is. The whole movement is bullshit. It was born bullshit, it grew up into bullshit, and it continues to be, well, bullshit. And feminism came out of the womb, right, with a blunt in one hand and a 40 ounce of Jack Daniel in the other, okay? So I don't care what third wave feminism is. It's just feminism as a whole has been nothing but detrimental, and I will defend that conclusion to anyone who wishes to challenge me on it. So it doesn't matter.
Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with.
Man, oh man, Steve, and let me tell you, that line of reasoning pisses me off to no fucking it. I can't stand it when anti-feminists or anyone, I can't stand it when anyone says, I am not opposed to how feminism used to. No, it was always it was born bullshit, it became bullshit, and it continues to be bullshit. There was never a point in time where feminism was ever reasonable, ever. I hate that. So I'm with you on that one, Steve. I cannot stand it when people say that.
So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
The entire thing. Now here, I can say this. There are certain degrees and certain points I can agree with. some so-called third wave feminists on. And I guess to answer your question, from as I understand it, third wave feminists seem to focus more on the social sphere than legal rights, changing the perceptions of women by often blaming those perceptions on men and patriarchy and misogyny, from what I understand. And so, to a certain degree, I can understand or even agree with some feminists when they say women have terrible levels of low self-esteem, and this is a problem and should be corrected. What I disagree with them on is the fact that it is the fault of the male gaze, and it is misogyny for women to be sexually attracted to women and to have a standard of what they find attractive about women. That is what I resent. I remember Nash Greer just made a video where he just talked about what he liked about girls, and he got the fire, the hotness of a bunch of feminists and young ladies bitching at him. It's that kind of stuff that I despise about third wave feminists. The mobs of which they will try to destroy anything and everything because you hurt their feelings. Not necessarily because you're being an asshole or even a bad person.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men, but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
Well, to answer your question, I think Trigglypuff is the absolute worst example of a feminist. I mean, she might be the absolute best example of a feminist trying to derail a conversation because someone said something they didn't like. But as far as actually encapsulating what I feel is the majority of feminists, no, I don't really think she's a good example. And I also don't think that she reflects every single person ever, because she's an individual. But honestly, if you want what I would think is the quintessential feminist example, I would actually say someone along the lines of Savannah Brown. I mean, let's think about this. She's very attractive, at least to me. You know, but despite the fact that she's really attractive, you know, she deals with, you know, she's a hurt soul. She's hurting inside. And in order to reconcile those hurt feelings that she obtained throughout the course of her life, she moves on to this movement of feminism to try to figure out what was going on. And she ends up being completely fucking wrong and sounding like a dumbass when in all reality, Savannah Brown is pretty far from a stupid person. Like, I actually frequent her channel every now and again, and I actually find myself agreeing with a lot of things she said, but when she talks about feminism, she sounds like a fucking dumbass, because it's actually, you can't really rationalize an incredibly inane idea and sound intelligent unless you're like a master of rhetoric. Most people, when they try to make sense of something that doesn't make sense, they sound stupid. And so that's Savannah Brown. I think she's a great example of a millennial age feminist. She's intelligent, she's actually pretty attractive, but she's got low self-esteem and tries to reconcile that with the social movement that blames men for all of her problems. So, yeah.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists?
Because that's the entire point of a label, my friend. The entire point of having a label or an identity is to effectively communicate a string of ideas that are consistent within a group or a job occupation. So if you're telling me that the label doesn't work or it doesn't apply to you, then you have to either one, change the label, or two, drop it. And that's why people hold you to it. And I mean, to be fair, I mean, they do this for anyone and everyone. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. Doesn't really matter. As soon as one crazy bastard from any side comes along, everyone's got an answer for it. And I think it's kind of stupid, because it seems to completely neglect the idea that humans are individuals and can sometimes do shitty things individually. That doesn't reflect the whole movement. That's why I decided to just not apply my affiliation to any movement and just be some nigga on the internet. Because in all actuality, that's what I am. I'm just some nigga on the internet.
Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you?
Yes, and people regularly do. Again, that's why I don't like using labels, because I do not want to be held responsible for other people that I don't have any affiliation with. Unfortunately, I mean, you know, there's power in a label to effectively communicate ideas, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you are not associated with crazy bullshit. So yeah, unfortunately, you know, those are the bricks, man.
Even if you don't agree much.
If SJWs are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years?
You don't know that I exist. You don't know that I'm a person, do you? I'm a bit insulted by what you said. I mean, to be fair, I guess, you know, I do have a microscopic channel on YouTube, but seriously, I mean, you know, here's the thing. I somewhat feel you on this. I somewhat feel you, because even I sometimes am a bit discouraged by the fact that there are many massively huge channels, relatively speaking, on YouTube, and they do that. They do what you have described. Excuse me. Well, they will indeed just kind of complain a lot and make fun of people and shitpost. Certainly, they're real. But then what about the guys in Honey Badger Radio? What about Karen Strawn, you know, Allison Tiemann, Dr. Vandermerkamp? I mean, these people try all the time to talk about real issues in a very entertaining and funny way. Well, how come they don't get any credit? I mean, you look at the shit posters. See, here's the thing that just backs up to the question that we just had to answer. You only look at the shit posters, and then the people who are fucking trying then have to defend themselves from that nonsense. And I guess, like I said in the last one, it's unfortunate, but and those are the bricks. But seriously, fuck you. I really don't like you. You're an asshole.
I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, how dare they? Just, how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining. Forever. For a living.
That's healthy.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
Well, sir, as I said before, I shall say again, I resent that. I do not wreck people for views. In fact, actually, for the last couple of weeks, my views have been consistently declining. And I haven't changed much of anything that I've been doing. I've been attempting to address what the person has said in a complex, interesting, and entertaining way as to show fundamentally why this is a problem and why you should avoid this movement and the issues here. So, yeah, I try. I do my best. The problem is the fact that you only see the people who wreck people for views. But do not mistake them as the whole of everyone else. So you really shouldn't. That's not healthy. It's not healthy at all.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
To answer your question, Steve, none. Nothing. Nothing they've read, not Naomi Wolf, not bell hooks, nothing I've read has convinced me that feminism is a necessary thing. At all. Nothing, unfortunately, because I think it's all bullcrap, Steve. I'm going to be completely honest. And I know that sucks. I know that might hurt your feelings, but that's honestly how I feel. I don't think we need feminism as a social movement. I think that men and women are already equal, and we should appreciate each other's differences instead of constantly trying to work to make us each other. So, hopefully that answers your question. And alright, I think this video has gone on long enough, and so we will continue it in part 2, which, unlike the Brie Olson video, will probably be out in the next couple of days, not in the next months. I honestly should go ahead and do part 2 of that video, but it's going to be a doozy. But I'll probably get it done one day, maybe. I don't know. So that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed part 1. And if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button. Yeah, shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comments below. And as always, you guys have yourselves a great day. See you cool cats in a couple days. Adios.